Welcome to the Jacob Wayne Show. I am your Jacob Wayne, and with me, as always, is the gorgeous Kellen Gibbons.
Oh,
how you doing, sweetie?
we're doing good. We're about halfway through our pledge draft here.
That's good. I decided that my yelling at the beginning of every episode is a bit jarring, and perhaps I should bring it down. Real nice, just to ease into the show.
What if anybody's like, skip? Just like immediately fast forwards. Next song.
Anyway, Kellen, what are you drinking?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just doing White Claw, Surge, Cranberry, nothing new.
Yeah. Could be better. Not too bad. The cranberry flavor.
They sneak up on you, man.
Yeah.
But super drinkable.
I'm drinking a Moab Brewery FMU, which, double IPA. Nice
there you
and
go.
hoppy, tasty. I don't know what FMU stands for, but I imagine it's feelings.
Yeah, FMU, FMA. Are you seasonal with the beer you drink? Do you like switch up depending on the weather?
Oh, maybe a little bit. I do like a few more dark beers, and really on Christmas time, there's some Christmas beers I like winter warmers, and I like stouts around Christmas.
All right,
but that's just in addition to what I already drink.
Right. Well, yeah, it's like you, our buddy Neil, Shockey to a degree. I mean, you're all pretty big into beer and seem to like the IPAs and all that stuff. I'm not as big into beer, clearly, because I'm drinking seltzers a lot, but I'm kind of thinking going into fall and winter, I might bring IPAs back. Nice. Not like a lot, but just it seems to fit the colder weather.
For sure.
And I know, like, what would you say is a really good cold weather beer? I can't really think of the term, but like, it's like the really thick stout.
Yeah, stout.
Like people like those for winter, but that's not. I have a hard time getting into stouts.
Well, you might like a winter warmer, which is a style, and it's like a dark beer, but it's not quite as heavy as a stout. But it's nice and comforting. And a lot of the times you get like a Christmas ale. It's a winter warmer with like nutmeg and shit in it, which those are okay. I'm on the holiday like spices in a beer, but I do like the style a lot. Just a porter, something like that.
I'd maybe go with I don't know, like a more of a peanut butter type beer or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. A peanut butter stout. My favorite is a Samuel Smith's oatmeal stout. Has a gold foil. Stout. That one that's like a Christmas beer for me personally.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what WeldWorks does. I don't think I've been as conscious of them going into like a winter holiday season, so I'm curious what they do to celebrate. But anyways, to set up this episode, this week I recorded 2 other interviews. So last week I feel like we got a pretty good reception with our first interview with Michael Neal and him getting us all learnt on Brazil. And so what I did is I got 2 of my other friends that had something they could go over with me and stuff, and I'll leave the next week's guest a mystery until next week. But this week we got our friend Mike Valentine. Yes, not the singer of Faith No More, Michael Valentine. He's going to be kind of going over just how he knows me, kind of our mutual love of movies, and his quest to save the Pantages Theater down in Salt Lake City. So should be interesting.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it'll be good. And now that you'll get to know him in this episode, I'll have him on every now and again. Sometimes if Kellen's busy with band stuff, he'll maybe fill in, or in October, I'm going to be hitting the movies really hard, as I always do at October Movie Fest. So
Spooky
might
time.
have him on for one or two to really zone in on some stuff. But
nice.
Yeah, I'm excited for October. That being said, I haven't been really watching a lot of movies lately. All I did was watch The Boys on Amazon and got all caught up on that, 2 seasons. And it's a really great show. It's really fucked up and vulgar and violent and sexual. And it's, it's right up my alley. So go into it knowing that. But if you're into that kind of stuff, it's a really great cynical subversion of the superhero genre, and makes quite a bit of commentary just on society today, whether it be celebrity worship, American Idol style contests to like see who's gonna hook up with you, like, blah, 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 and politics a little bit, and just I don't know, it's just really good. And all I will say, there's a lot of really great actors in it, but the actor who plays the character Homelander, which is like a rip-off Superman, is delightfully fucked up and a total piece of shit, but in like such an awesome, well-acted sort of way.
Nice.
Yeah, so really that's all I've been watching. Have you been watching anything in particular?
I haven't been watching any new like shows or movies really. I did watch an episode of Dharma and Greg because I saw that was on like Hulu. I was like, holy shit, I forgot about that show. And I watched it and I was like, oh yeah, that's that show.
Yeah.
I remember when this was on TV.
I watched a fair amount of that with my mom, like kind of during school, like we'd fight about my weed usage or not going to church, or me just generally being a rebellious child. But after our long fights, we'd sit down, have dinner, and watch whatever show was kind of on, because that was back in 2001 to 2004. So yeah, it wasn't, you kind of had to be like, oh, what's on Thursday nights, NBC? Like, okay, Friends. And I can't remember what Dharma and Greg was on, but I definitely remember it. It's Jenna Elfman's Dharma, right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, she was pretty hot. I think I was kind of into her. I liked her hippie ways. It's kind of funny. I was way more into the hippie types when I was younger, and as I've gotten older, I'm a little like, eh. I think I'm more into Greg.
Yeah. Her roommate's the funny one. Just like the little like neighbor, I guess.
I don't remember the neighbor.
Yeah, she's funny. I can't remember
she
the
like?
actress's
she
name.
All goth or something?
Yeah, she comes across that way in the first episode, but they kind of just went to like, she's just straightforward, kind of, she's the comic relief, smart out, has a smart answer for everything. She's
kind of like
funny.
Daria.
Yeah.
Meant to be or something. Yeah. You know what? I have to go back and correct myself. I was never really into hippie chicks. It was goth chicks.
There you go.
Yeah. Because, they kind of have some similarities. They're a little counterculture, but, like thick black eyeliner, fishnets, smoking cigarettes, drinking too much coffee at the Denny's. Like, that's my type of girl.
There you go.
Thinking about life and death, and mostly death.
Listening to some
Yeah.
pretty tasty tunes.
Yeah, listen to The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, a little bit of Marilyn Manson while he was still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rip in peace.
Yeah. Any new music releases?
No, not that I have heard of personally.
Did I mention the album that Trent Reznor did with that pop artist?
I don't believe so.
Okay. There's this pop artist named Halsey, Halsey or something. I had never heard of her, but I guess she was kind of coming up over the last few years and more or less did, I don't know, like the Billie Eilish style kind of pop music, I guess, or maybe I'm wrong. I haven't listened to him, but she reached out to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross of Nine Inch Nails fame and said, "Hey, would you do the music for my new record?" And they were like, "That's kind of a fun little challenge, so sure." So it was kind of a unique little pop record where it's basically like Nine Inch Nails, but smoothed over, maybe a little more sugar coating, and it's a pop record. And it's the title is "If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power." And it's really tasty. It's very, very much an electronic pop record, and you know, definitely feeling your full womanhood kind of vibe, but it's really good. So
interesting.
I highly recommend it. And I kind of, all I will say in attachment to that is I kind of hope more pop artists do that. If they're not like the people that write all their own music, if they're more of the singer or performer or whatever, reach out to like more alternative or strange artists and like, hey, maybe you just make the music for me rather than some overproduced thing. Because there's nothing wrong with being a pop star that it's like, yeah, I don't necessarily write the music. I just write the lyrics and sing the songs. Hopefully they write the lyrics, but yeah.
Yeah, hope to God.
Yeah. And I know Devin Townsend, I mean, he was worked as a songwriter for people, which I always thought was cool. And I'm just kind of reach out to these more avant-garde thinkers and make weird little combinations, because it's always that food analogy for me where it's like, yeah, it's different ingredients. Why not try to come up with some weird fusion recipes?
Yeah. Like one cool idea, Protest the Hero actually did on when they released Fortress, they had one of their songs they sent to a bunch of people are like, hey, remix this. And Devin was one of them. So there's a really cool remix of a Protest the Hero song by Devin. That's like just it's an interesting way to kind of mix it all together.
I agree. Not too long ago, Deftones had a bunch of electronic artists remix their White Pony record.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't like it that much, but I did appreciate the effort. And there are a couple takes on that record where I'm like, oh, that was pretty tasty. But I'm all for the experiment. You know, doesn't always land. And I mean, if it doesn't land for me, that doesn't mean it didn't land for a bunch of other people. And yeah, there's nothing more annoying to me than a Deftones fan that it's like, this isn't heavy. What the fuck? Like, Deftones is more than just being a heavy rock band.
Yeah.
And if it were up to you, you just have them make their first two records over and over again. And where's the fun in that?
Yeah, exactly. I've had a few people actually. Somebody not too long ago was like, well, I don't even really know what Deftones is. And I was like, me neither, but it's not just as simple as you think it is. I know that.
Yeah.
Like I've heard a lot of different stuff. I still haven't, taken the dive in myself, but mostly just listened with other people. But
it's basically drugged out 80s new wave mixed with gent or new metal.
Nice.
But it's it's willing to go other places too. It's not restrictively that. Yeah. And there's some nice, really mellow acoustic tunes and ones that are heavy and ones that are more electronic, and they're just willing to experiment.
It kind of reminds me of Clutch, not like musically, in some ways maybe, but mostly just in that spirit of being like, we're gonna do what we want.
No, exactly. This album happened to come out and it was really heavy. This one's a little more groovy.
Here's an acoustic album.
Yeah.
But we didn't find Jesus.
Hopefully. Hopefully Jesus found them.
I saw a thing. Apparently, some guy, like some missionaries, came to their door and they were like, he was like, "Have you found Jesus?" And he just like stared at him and he was like, "Jesus, they're on to us, run."
Has it ever been a scenario of anything like where Jesus finds a guy, like say his name's Derek or whatever, and Jesus finds him, but also at the same time, like Buddha's finding him, and then Jesus and Buddha just have a stare down, like the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like I found him first.
Get out of here, long hair.
It's only room for one follower in this here neck of the spirit realm. That'd be good if this doesn't, but
see, everybody that believes in one of those believes in only the one, so they don't even imagine such things. That would be awesome. It'd be way more exciting if there's like god fights going on.
It would make some sense if gods were fighting over bullshit. Oh, that explains parasites in children's eyes that are starving. Maybe just like, this guy fucked up Jesus's thing. That was his job. I don't know.
True.
This is a fun little side note. No really other time to bring it up other than if I'm thinking of it. So when I lived up in Seattle, sometimes you run into characters as you're walking about.
Indeed.
And I'd always walk around with my earbuds in and listening to music, just so it's like, hopefully that's projecting, don't talk to me, leave me alone, I'm listening to music and going about my day.
Yeah.
But that never stops the people that want to talk to you that you don't want to have talking to you. So I was at a gas station and I started to just have one response, but in this one in particular, this lady like was talking at me and I could hear it well enough to just be like, huh, and take the ear plug out. She's like, you got to be careful with those headphones and like somebody could like jump you or do something to you. She's all like kind of twitchy and just and I'm just like, oh, don't worry about it. Jesus has my back. It's just, I just started to like just do that. Like, oh no, Jesus has got me. I'm good.
All is forgiven in the Lord.
And it's hilarious how many people are like, huh? Oh, it's just like, all right,
this guy's crazier than I am.
No, yeah, my buddy's Jesus, so I'm good.
There you go.
It's a good kind of like leave me alone phrase. You should try it. But I don't know. Any music come out on your radar worth mentioning?
I haven't seen any music that I've been, also haven't, been quite busy. Haven't been looking, but haven't noticed any music coming out. But I did have a new game pop up on my radar that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Our buddy Neil has also been playing it. It's called Potion Craft, and it's like in early access right now, so it's still very early access, but it's like a cool idea for a game. It's like you're making potions, but like when you put ingredients in the pot, it like puts a certain pattern on the map. So you have to like put different ingredients in different amounts to get to the potion on the map. So it's like kind of a different way of exploring the alchemy. You're like actually exploring with the ingredients you're putting in, and you like have to like use the little pestle and mortar and stir the cauldron and all the stuff. It's just a totally different game than I've ever seen before. Totally like new idea for a game. It's pretty entertaining.
Is it high energy focus or is it kind of more relaxed?
Oh, totally relaxed. Just chill, making potions, gathering ingredients, and you just sell. And there people come into your shop. You're like an alchemist, and you just sell the potions. People come in and are like, "Hey, my head hurts. Here's a healing potion." It's a good time.
The apothecary.
Yeah, so potion craft, good times.
Yeah, cool. Just playing that on Steam on your PC.
Yeah, I found it on Steam. it's on sale for like $13 right now, but I think full price is like 15. So
Cool.
and again, like it's fun right now, but I think in a couple of months when they finish it up a little more, it's going to be like a really cool game.
Cool. I guess two games I could shout out real quick, but I've barely scratched the surface on them. Are did I mention Spiritfarer on this show?
I can't remember if you've done it on the I don't think so. Not on the show.
It has like sort of a nice Studio Ghibli kind of art design, like kind of anime a little bit, and it has elements of Starbound, and what was that other game we played that's a lot like Starbound?
Terraria.
So it has a little bit of that, but it's a little more casual. I haven't had anything attack me, but you're on your boat and you're building like a place for these like spirit animals that are like weird spiritual representations of your family members or something like that, as far as I'm following it. Like there's this giant frog that says he's your uncle, and then they kind of help you go about in the oceans and like gather jellyfish that fly around in the storm, and you can fish off the edge, jump out, pick up stuff from like a shipwreck, jump onto these little islands, cut down trees, so on and so forth. So it is like resource gathering, cooking food, a lot of similarities of stuff we've mentioned lately, but it's a very peaceful game. It's easy to go about it casually. And then one that isn't peaceful is the game Scourgebringer, which is a little action-packed 2D kind of indie game where it's like Ninja Gaiden from the old Nintendo, but obviously a lot more fluid movement. And that's a roguelite. And maybe you could think of the definition of what a roguelite is better than me, but essentially you can die a lot easily, but you like respawn and then you're slowly working on your gradual upgrades. So as you progress, you get along further and further, stuff gets harder and harder, but you're upgrading a little, your weapons are a little more advanced, but it looks a lot like Metroid, or like Super Metroid is a lot of what it reminds me of, where you just like drop into a room and then there's certain enemies and you just zip around and fucking destroy them. And it's got like some gent guitar, like nice. And it's like just got some cool music, really cool art design, and it's frustrating as hell. But it's like you could pick it up every day, play for like half an hour until you're like, all right.
Yeah.
Now I need Spiritfarer. There's something a little more chill. But yeah, that's been a really fun one. And other than that, we all kind of hopped into a new server with Valheim. They just had their big update, but that's still an early access game too, which is kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just in a new server. They got new items, new food system with the like upgrading health or your stamina, and some people complained a fuck ton about it, so they already went back in and tweaked it a little bit. But I think people are just a bunch of ninnies, just like you're whining, like come on, just play the game. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We're just kind of doing the general run through on the upgrades. So
yeah, you guys are working fast.
Well, not me. That crew of Neil, Sam, and Brian, like they just they burn through games.
Yeah.
So good for them though, because it's like I wasn't super thrilled about starting from the beginning, at least at this point. So it's like, yeah, more or less, let's work up to where we were in the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So with that, during these interview episodes, I don't think we're going to do any of our end of show segments. But yeah, tell us how you have been enjoying the guests so far. What segments you may miss that All right, maybe we can squeeze that into the interview episodes if you're really missing it. But otherwise, just let us know what you like, what you're like, I wish you'd do more of that. And if you want to complain, I guess we might read it. And you can write us at the Jacob Wayne Show at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, our outro still says Koshka at gmail.com, which is fine. So I haven't quite felt the urge to record it, but either
Yeah.
one is okay. But
Nice.
with that, I suppose we'll get into our interview with Michael Valentine. I almost said Michael Neal. Michael Valentine. Unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on.
No, I think I'm good. Let's go hear what he has to say.
All right. And so
Studio magic.
Well. If it isn't my good buddy, Michael Valentine. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. How's it going?
Oh, fantastic. If you ever see my face scrunch up like, it has nothing to do with what you're saying. I just got tummy aches right now.
Oh, I thought I told you like a scary anecdote, and it's almost Halloween. So,
well, that's if I go
Oh, okay,
then I'm really scared.
Okay, that's the emotions.
Yeah, but I think I've established this in a previous episode with our first guest, but as of right now, we're only doing about 40 minutes with guests, so we kind of want to get right into the meat of things.
Sweet.
But that being said, first things first, let's get to know you a little bit. How do we know each other?
That's a good question. I believe we've met through my older brother, James, the great James. The Jamesopedia, I call him, because he is a very smart James.
Whether you want him to be or not.
Yeah, always the most intelligent person I know, but shout out to the older brother James there. So you guys were the same grade, Skyview, school days.
Elementary school.
There.
Played some Super Nintendo games together back in the day.
Yeah, you guys are 2 years older than me. I was 2 years behind you guys. So, but yeah, you guys were always buddies. I think you came to one of James's birthday parties a long time ago. But
it was like during the college years, so that would have been about 2010-ish.
Well, even like before that, I feel like you were at one of James's parties like way back in the day, maybe with DJ.
Oh, a long time ago, like elementary school.
Yeah, or maybe I was at DJ's birthday. We watched like Men in Black or something. I don't remember, but anyway, yeah, I think we got connected more in the college days. James was having a party and you were over there, and then we just ended up talking for like 4 hours at the party.
Yeah.
and we were kind of acquaintances on Facebook, I think, for a while before that.
I think you were part of what was the atheist group up on
Yeah, it was called Shaft. So we founded that with James and a few other friends. Secular humanists, atheists, or free thinkers, give God the shaft, as we like to say.
Yeah.
But then I think the first time on Facebook I remember chatting with you is I posted about One Day as a Lion, the Zach De La Rocha group with the Mars Volta drummer dude that I'm a huge fan of, and you commented, and then we had a shared love affair of that. So, and I was like, this guy knows his music. So
I try to. I can definitely be pretty generic with what I'm into musically as well, but I don't know. I guess it goes one way or the other. I like to say that I'm into everything, but there's something I dislike about every genre.
Well, you gotta keep a code, as they say. But I think I remember chatting with you that, and then we kind of hit it off at this party a few months later, and finally met in person, and then became good buddies since then. So
we hung out with that Horse Bones band a lot.
Yep, I was in that band for a few weeks, and then I was the manager of that band, and they didn't listen to me at all. And I was trying to plan a big tour for them on the East or the West Coast that was going to be cool, and then realized I valued my time and sanity more than being a manager of a band that didn't listen to me. So
it's probably the best.
Fun times were had, and Also, we got to shout out impressions that we would like to do at parties. I think that was another thing we kind of bonded over. Comedy.
Yeah, annoying people with Michael Caine.
Yeah,
I haven't done Michael Caine in a long time, so all my impersonations are a little rusty. But it's like, you blow the bloody doors off.
Yeah. So mine are. I won't even attempt to do some here. It'd just be a travesty. But I do love the impressionations and
my favorite joke was always Forrest Gump talking about how his mom was trying to murder him. She always used to say she should have thrown herself down the stairs.
Yeah. And then at some point we somehow mixed Forrest Gump into There Will Be Blood and Jenny drinks my milkshake type of a thing. So anyway.
Which I'm sure everybody we were hanging out with loved that we were not completely beating that dead horse.
Yeah, in our eyes, we were pushing the boundaries of comedy way into the stratosphere. But the world wasn't ready for that. So
yeah. Well, and I mean, I do remember at the time I was kind of hitting that cynical end of your 20s era.
Yeah.
Where you're like, you know what, fuck this. Why do I want to go to a party every weekend? Why do I want to do that?
Yeah.
And so I started relishing going to parties and like kind of ruining the mood. Like, I'm supposed to be hitting on this person over here, but really I'm just going to do an annoying Michael Caine voice in the kitchen.
Yeah, entertaining ourselves more than others. I think it worked out well because I look back at those times very fondly versus, some parties that were just forgettable. So
yeah.
But it's also the environment at the time of people that actually know Logan, Utah, and what it's like to be there for years on end, and the feelings that anyway. But
there's if you're part of the counterculture or just not the mainstream way of doing things in Cache Valley, you kind of latch on to each other pretty strongly. It's kind of like all that bullshit pressure from everything around you kind of crushes certain people into diamonds.
Right.
And so then you're like, oh, you really cherish it.
Yeah, it's such a small town. There's no entertainment, nightlife like any other place. Parties are really the only thing to do at the time. And
you could go to Mulligan's and have
we had 2 bars.
50-year-old man stare at you for 2 hours.
Now I think there's 5 bars or something. It's just getting crazy in Logan. But compared to any other place where, even just a little bit south in Salt Lake, there's so many other things we probably would have been doing, going to music and going to, museums and movies and stuff that don't come to Logan. It just wasn't a lot to do. So impressions kind of filled the void, I think, for us.
I have to interject with a little story real quick.
Sure.
So you were just mentioning that there's a few more bars up in Cache Valley now. They have a yoga studio. I think they're getting a brewery.
Yeah, I think I've heard about a winery too.
So it's like it's getting a little bit cooler, but like obviously for those of you that don't live there, maybe you've never been to Utah, you're like, what's the big deal? But what's funny, I'll leave this person nameless because I don't know if they would want to be named, but they were talking to a coworker and their coworker just says like, yeah, man, I don't know how much more of this I can take. I think me and my family need to leave the city. And he's like, leave Logan? Leave Logan? He's like, yeah, it's just getting too wild here. Like, we need to get out of here.
That's
too much craziness going on. They got a yoga studio.
I know, you got to.
What if my kids see the yoga studio?
It's so wild. You have to go to a town with 8 people instead to get some normalcy.
Yeah.
And
because don't get me wrong, there was parts of Seattle that like, that was like, holy shit, that's wild. Like, I don't know if I want to run into that every single day, like just doing public transportation. But then you're like, oh wait, back in my hometown, somebody's scared of the yoga studio. So
and I think that's especially for us millennial types and younger, and having a more global world that's connected. I think that's a really interesting point to bring up because it's like where do I fit in as an individual? Like, where's my town? Where's my city? Where's a place that matches what I am and want to be? But and it's interesting too, because just like, the difference between Salt Lake and Logan is just 100 miles. But I look at my life in Logan and like my life in Salt Lake, and it's like whole different life. It's just kind of baffling to think about. Or just like with what your kind of journey going to China and then Seattle and now in Colorado, and the different places and things. And it's something I thought about a lot too, because like, I came to Salt Lake and it was always supposed to be kind of a stepping stone with a film background. And, I always thought, I'm like, oh, I got to either go to LA or New York at some point. I got to go to these places.
Sure.
And that was kind of the thing. But then now it's like, well, maybe I could just stay in Salt Lake and make it cooler, help make it better here too. And just like add something to the city and not have to just go find somewhere, but create a place, Anyway.
Well, and I mean, Utah does have its own distinct film history, which we'll get into. But yeah, I think not only just generationally with us, it's also probably due to COVID and all that.
Right.
People are just kind of taking reassessments of, do I have to be in this major city, or can I do what I wanted to do?
Yeah.
And kind of Zoom call in on the meetings I need to. I'll fly to the city when I need to.
Right.
But I know a lot of production companies like Danny McBride, a kind of comedic filmmaker I really like. He moved almost his whole production company down to Atlanta, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just like a lot of change, and I don't know, things kind of go in that direction. I know for me, I just kind of got worn out on trying to always keep up with the price of a city and then just the hustle and bustle.
Totally.
And so, it's funny because sometimes I have the little daydream about going to a little tiny house out in New Mexico or up in Montana, and all I do is paint, and then it'll be a little more affordable maybe, and then I can just have a vehicle finally, and then when I need to, I'll go to the city. But I think that's what I've personally really liked about Fort Collins is it's a little bit smaller. It's a college town, just like Logan, Utah. Logan, Utah has Utah State University. Here they have Colorado State University. And it's kind of like the morphed version of my hometown. It has elements of Seattle, has way more international food. And yeah, it's like, okay, I get a little taste of that small town living, but Denver's right there. I can just kind of kick back and work on my artwork.
That's the funny thing about Utah and Colorado, because it gets brought up a lot that it's like Colorado is just like a kind of a cooler version of Utah.
Yeah.
There's all these like similarities in places, but then it's just like a little bit cooler compared to
Utah's the moody twin that keeps like rubbing crystals on you and doing all this weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like stop.
Yeah.
We're just drinking beer and walking dogs over here. Like, leave us alone.
People that want to mix things into Jello, and you're like, hey, let's just leave Jello alone.
Carrots and what?
Let's keep Jello pure here in Colorado. Let's
and not carrots. To take a shit on Wyoming, because I think it does have some good stuff, but at least Utah and Colorado can kind of both like, well, at least we're not that guy.
Yeah. I feel like in Utah, Mom always like, let's be cooler like Colorado. Like, we're pretty cool, I think, in Utah, but we could.
You're getting yoga studios everywhere, man.
I know, we're getting the yoga studios, which is obscene. When will these yoga studios end, really? But
I have considered, though, if I had to come back to Utah to just be closer to family and stuff, Salt Lake was probably the general area I'd try to end up. There's no way I could do Cache Valley again.
Yeah, I feel it's interesting. Like people look at Utah and just outside of the state and, see Mormons and like this crazy conservative state, but Salt Lake is like surprisingly pretty awesome. I always think of it as like a little brother to San Francisco and Austin of how cool it is. And like our queer community here is just amazing. And I wish we get more bands here, but the counterculture, the art stuff and all that is really cool here. And I think the biggest mistake of my life was probably I should have moved here sooner. I stayed in
Yeah,
Logan for too long, and
you can't dwell in that for too long, though. Things
sure, but
happen as they do.
I'm just I'm glad to live in a cool city, I think so.
Yeah.
But
And I will say this about the Mormons. After having lived in mainland China and going to Taiwan, living in Seattle for a bit, I spent a year in Florida, been here for almost 2 years. There's some kooky, weird belief system in every single place you go to. It seems like
totally.
this need of humanity to be like, oh, I could just be cool and chill and realize that I have no idea what's going to happen when I die. So
Yeah.
maybe just relax and be good to people. But
Yeah.
no, they're like, no, there's a system and there's rules and levels. And
Yeah. I guess
like,
if we want
all
to,
right, Mormons out of that, a lot of them are pretty nice. You
yeah,
just don't let them go into their, hey, do you want to come have Jello with me and the fam? Like, no.
Yeah. When they start talking about their theories on Jello, you're like, whoa, I gotta go to this meeting. I can't stay here. But
Or their
I guess,
fear of the downward dog position.
yeah, I, I guess if we're gonna talk about one bad aspect of Colorado, like that in California, you start going into the crystal type people and
Yeah.
the healing
As I
properties
like to
of
call them, the
water,
woo-woos.
the woo woos. Yeah, you got a lot more woo woos than we do in Salt Lake here, and
Yeah.
Utah, so that's the sad thing. But that brings up, you mentioned China. Good question for you. Where's out of the U.S.? Obviously, we're still in COVID here, but where are you hoping to travel to outside of the U.S. next? Like, where's the
Oh.
top destination you're excited for? I know you're a
Well,
world traveling kind of dude, so
I wish I was more than I am. The list is ridiculous. There's so many places I'd like to see, but in no particular order, I'd like to see Taiwan again. I'd love to see Vietnam. I would love to see Australia, New Zealand, Nepal, India, Ethiopia, Uruguay, Peru. It just keeps going.
Now we're going into the part of the podcast where Jacob redoes the Animaniacs song where he just names off all the countries of the world.
There's a place and stuff and things, and I can't remember when, but I'm gonna go there and eat food and yummy time.
Yeah, I know it's a hard question to answer because you're just like, I don't know, everywhere. And
I think the main priority after the traditional home visits for holidays and whatnot is San Francisco.
Awesome. Yeah.
James is there. I'm gonna have my buddy Ethan and his crew of peeps. That Ethan is my buddy from Hangzhou, China. I think he grew up in Massachusetts with his girlfriend, and but yeah, we have our other buddy Cody. He's in Kansas and Nebraska right now, so we kind of want to try to get everybody there and have our buddy Johnny, who's from Hangzhou, or at least around there.
That's cool.
Kind of all get together.
I always kind of gravitated to, like, I love the historical cities of America, but also kind of the more weirder ones, So San Francisco, Boston, New Orleans, Chicago were always kind of my main ones. And then having James, the older brother, live in San Francisco has been so fun because we've probably been there 4 or 5 times the last couple of years. And it's just like, the more I go there, the more I love it. It's got amazing seafood. I think it's one of the most diverse cities in the country, with like 25% of the population being Chinese, and then obviously there's big other Asian communities there, which is really fantastic. And it's just such a fun old city to like wander around with so much culture and food. And anyway, it's probably one of my favorite cities in the country for sure that I really love exploring. So
I've never been, so I'm excited to get there.
Yeah. So it's just really weird too, like those freaking streets and the trolleys and the history. It's like you go downtown and like most of it used to be underwater. Like they literally just built the whole like downtown area and it's just like, wow, that's crazy to think about. It's got Alcatraz, which is cool.
From the movie The Rock.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how-
So
yeah,
it's just a big prop, you know. It was never used for anything. They did the movie The Rock,
yeah. Sean
and then they're like,
Connery found his
let's
way
just leave
out and
this
found his way
here, you
back
know.
in.
Nicolas Cage really loved coming here, so now it's a big, you know, movie Airbnb place. But
Yeah,
so anyway,
we got Raising Arizona. You know,
yeah,
it's a reason to go to Arizona, and
yeah.
he mentions Utah at the end. So
Yeah, also I think The Birds started out in San Francisco, Vertigo. So there you
I didn't
go.
realize that. It's been a while since I've seen The Birds.
Yeah. Well, we went there, and my I think she's my second cousin or someone in my family who's awesome, but she lives about 45 minutes above San Francisco, and she actually, when I went there, she knew I love movies, so she took me and the family a few years ago to the city where they made The Birds. I was having a great time. Everyone hated it. So they're like, why are we here? And I'm like, this is fantastic. And then she took me to this little shop with Alfred Hitchcock stuff, all this bird stuff.
Yeah,
Everyone's like, fuck this movie, man. Like, let's go somewhere else. And I'm like, having a great time. So I
yeah,
appreciate she let me annoy my whole family just for me to
for
go to the
sure.
Birds place. And then we went and watched the Birds after. And then again, everyone hated it. And I was having a great time.
This is a pretty good segue, I think. That I think one of the things that we've definitely bonded on is movies and our love of movies.
Absolutely.
We can definitely agree and we can definitely disagree.
Yeah.
I'll say initially, like, I need to watch The Birds again because when I watched it, I was very young,
Yeah.
and I was just like, why don't you just punch that stupid bird in the face? Like,
Yeah.
I was annoyed with it, but also I wasn't very patient with older movies at the time. So
Yeah. I will admit, like, I won't. I don't think The Birds is the greatest movie ever made, but there's something like seriously awesome about like the caliber of Alfred Hitchcock, of how good of a director he was to make a movie about birds killing people, and just how
sure,
like stupid that idea is, and just
yeah,
like taking it to like a supreme level. It's like Martin Scorsese making a movie about like zombie dogs or something. It's just
yeah,
fantastic, or like maybe even crazier than that, like killer chickens or something. But I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
So, to have that dynamic of like one of the greatest directors of all time making a movie about birds just going crazy to kill people, it's just
Well,
awesome.
yeah,
But
when you have an auteur take on like almost B movie level concepts and
yeah,
really
exactly. Like,
blow them out, that's pretty
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's just like that level of skill for something that stupid is impressive, I think. But I mean, obviously, Alfred Hitchcock has a whole insane library of movies. I think he made over 40 movies or something wild like that.
Yeah,
Pretty impressive.
I
But
also
yeah, I think,
remember the ending of The Birds, which I didn't have a lot of patience for, like fucked up sad endings when I was young.
yeah,
And it was just they leave and there's just birds everywhere and they just
yeah,
drive away slowly. It's
yeah.
like,
They're like
what the
the
fuck?
yeah. The birds are letting us escape and they're staring us down. And what's
Yeah.
funny about that too is like since the birds came out, there's been a lot of research. I know they do a lot of stuff up in Seattle about crows and ravens, of how intelligent they are. They
Mhm.
actually, their brain sizes are bigger versus their body than dolphins or chimpanzees or something. So like they're so intelligent. So I think if the birds get pissed off, they will try to kill us and overthrow us. So
Well, I like to think about it now where it's almost like the dinosaurs trying to reclaim
yeah,
their rightful place in the
yeah,
order of things. They're like, we can fly, motherfucker.
yeah. And like the birds just got mad because like people ran out of bird seed at the park one day. It's just something they're like, God damn it.
Quit
We don't.
feeding us bread.
Yeah, we're tired of this bread. We wanted wheat bread. You're giving us
Yeah.
fucking white bread that's not healthy. But
It's
anyway,
goddamn black and white bread.
yeah, it's black and white bread. Uh, but yeah, I think our love of movies, that's for sure something that we bond over a lot. Always try to get in a lot of movie watching when we're hanging out and stuff. And
It's true.
I always appreciate, even though it's like, I don't think people can agree on movies 100%, but that's not really the point. The point is
Yeah.
just like, we just love watching in movies and talking about movies and chatting about them or how we would change them. And I think that's the
Hmm.
most fun about it, is just movies are always, and this is kind of gets into another thing too of this whole thing about streaming and Netflix and stuff, which is fine. But like, I don't, people are like, oh, the theaters are dying. It's like, well, they'll never die because watching movies with friends and community is like a whole other experience that you can't get watching it with, on the couch with, it's just a whole nother thing. But
well, I like if people can be aware of that and embrace the diversification of it all, like,
right.
I think I've really liked, for example, Mayor of Easttown. It's a short, limited series. I can just sit at home and kind of work my way through that, and it's long-winded. It's not hyper exciting. It's not necessarily something you sit and watch with a group of people.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, I remember watching episodes of Breaking Bad with groups of people, and that was really great. I mean, we watched it with the Horse Bones crew at, I think it was like season 3 or something. And then I moved to China and finished the series with my friends there, Ethan, who I mentioned.
Yeah.
And total side note, they would nickname me Heisenberg in China because we'd go to clubs and I just look annoyed to be there, and I'm bald. So I'm just like sitting there tapping my finger on the table, like just.
And then you also had the hat and a growing meth empire. So
well,
just kind of fit
on the side.
On the side.
But that being said, yeah, there is a time and a place to go to a movie theater. There was this awesome little theater up in Seattle. I haven't thought about it in a minute, so the name's not coming to me. It's in Columbia City, though, and maybe it's just the Columbia City Theater, but I don't know. It's been a minute. But when I was living there, it was kind of close to my work, and we'd go see like Barbarella there, or
nice.
Oh man, who is the guy that directed Ran? R-A-N.
Ran,
like well-known Japanese director.
Kurosawa. Kurosawa. Yeah, Ran. Okay, I was thinking like R-O-N, like this movie about Ran.
Yeah,
like,
Ran.
Yeah, I was thinking like King of the Hill. I'm like, who is Ran? Like, yeah, Kurosawa.
Yeah. And it's like I would just go there on a Sunday and go sit and watch that, and they have these little
awesome,
lounge chairs and stuff. But
what's interesting?
I was just gonna say we got about 14 minutes, so that kind of segues us into what you've been doing in Salt Lake City.
Sure.
So you've been trying to save the Pantages Theater in Salt Lake City, and we've talked about it plenty. But I guess let me kind of hit you with a couple questions for the layman, if they haven't heard of this or they're listening and they're like, what's the big deal with the Pantages Theater? So I guess that is the first question. What is the big deal with the Pantages Theater?
Yeah, so I'll try to keep this short because there's a lot to talk about. I always joke that
we're gonna have to do brief overview, and you're always welcome to come back on and
well, it's funny because there's so much to talk about in our little Pantages crew here. We joke that we could talk about it for like 5 hours without mentioning the same thing because it's just a complex thing going on. But basically, there's a historic theater in Salt Lake. Turns out it's one of the greatest theaters in America. 103 years old. It was a vaudeville theater, then it became a movie theater. Babe Ruth performed there, the Marx Brothers, Abbott and Costello, Bob Hope, Will Rogers. Just incredible history. And basically our wise city officials are trying to tear it down and give it away for free to a billionaire developer out of Texas to build luxury apartments and
new yoga studios.
Yeah, a yoga studio, I'm sure. And we're not very happy about that. We've been trying to save it since 2019. And it's been kind of cool experience because it was just, I found out about it in 2019 in the newspaper that they were going to tear it down. I've known about the theater for about 10 years. I just walked by it one day back in the day and I like peered inside. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then.
You took me to it once.
Yeah. It's really cool. And it's, there's some posters on the side of it. So I kind of could figure out what it was. It's just a massive theater. It's built in 1918 for about $2.25 million. So about $41 million today. There's Alaskan marble floors. There's some Tiffany skylight in there. just amazing, intricate and ornate details and architecture, Italian Renaissance style. So I kind of found out about it. I was really happy back then because the city bought it with the promise to see it restored, and they had tours. So I went on a tour. I brought the whole family down. My mom and my brother Anthony and my cousin and my aunt came and stuff. So it was really cool. So I think about that a lot because I think being inside the theater, which is actually kind of a rare thing because they've kept it closed and they've kept it hidden away from the people. It's been closed for about 30 years since I was born in 1988. So it's just the entire generations have kind of grown up without it. So I think going inside, actually seeing it in person kind of had a really strong effect on me. And then, for the listeners, I'm actually, film is kind of, my passion in life. I strive to be a director and write screenplays and work at Sundance. And, so I've always had these grand visions of doing films and things one day. So this kind of goes hand in hand with this old movie theater. So basically right now we're suing the city. We've been fighting against our city officials and to save the theater, to stop this deal. But we also set up a company and nonprofit, and we're trying to buy it ourselves to manage it into the future. And what I like to say is that the Pantages is a national theater. It goes way beyond Utah and Salt Lake. And it used to be called the Utah Theater. And we made a specific, attempt to rebrand it because it is a Pantages Theater. And there's a Pantages in Hollywood. They used to show the Oscars. There's one in Tacoma, Minneapolis, Toronto. So it's part of a national family of theaters. It's really special. So we like to say that it's a national theater, and we're restoring it into an international one for Sundance and film and the future of cinema and these type of ideas. And we need apartments too. I don't know if we need luxury apartments as much as the city wants to push. I think we need affordable housing. But
yeah, that's a whole other ball of wax. Affordable housing for people.
Right, but I will say, like, it's not that we're so much against this project from these developers. We just want them to build it somewhere else. We don't think it's as important to tear down, one of the nicest theaters in America. And then what it has the potential to be. It's 103 years old. I'd like to see it around for another 100 years and see generations and generations use it and love it, just like the last 100 years have. So,
well, having been in there, it's been a while, but I remember, yeah, it's a giant work of art. It's highly
incredible.
Detailed, and
yeah.
So I mean, even just preserving it to go look at is something, but that's not even necessarily what you guys are kind of envisioning with it. Tell me a little bit about what, because yeah, that's a little bit of what we were talking about, is obviously going to movies and the movie industry as a whole is very different.
Yeah.
Now. What are you thinking of doing, or what would you do that brings it into 2021 in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of fun. So I love that you mentioned the architecture aspect of this, because that's a whole nother thing. I think we need to save and protect our historic treasures.
Well, I got to interrupt real quick. Sure. Having lived up in Seattle, there's a lot of old homes just being knocked down to create the little fourplex, and they all look like Lego pieces put together, and it looks terrible. And I wish that there was more love for architecture in the country as a whole.
I do too. And it's something that, yeah, absolutely. I think this is a national problem. And what's interesting to me is, like, we started talking about the Pantages, and we just first started out to save the theater, and it's kind of expanded into this wild thing from here. We actually set up a restoration society for Utah, because so many people would reach out to us and be like, what about this house? What about this historic church that's cool? Like, what about these other historic properties? So it's been really awesome to see. There's kind of been a whole, like, re-emergence of, like, historic preservation and the conversation around that. And I think that's really special, especially for younger generations like ours, like millennials and Gen Zers, because it's like people don't really think about that. We talk about housing and minimum wage and healthcare and all these other important issues. But, like, historic preservation is something, like, once these buildings are gone, they're gone. Like, we can't restore this. Like, we can't rebuild the Pantages if it's gone, or these other buildings. And what's great about you going to China or in Asia, or going to Europe, there's places and there's theaters in Europe that are hundreds of years old. The longest continuous use theater is in London. It's 366 years old. They just restored it. There's opera houses that are hundreds of years old. If you go to Asia, there's like, you know, Buddhist statues that are 1,000 years old, and obviously the pyramids and these things. So I would love to like see America take a more of a staunch stance on historic preservation and be like, we need to model these other places, and it'd be great to have stuff 300, 400, 500 years old in America one day, you know, and we really need to do that. And the East Coast has really have been doing that because they've run out of space. New York lost Penn Station, and they make a lot of like harder regulations about protecting historic stuff, but the West has kind of been lagging behind. And you know, we barely have stuff that's 100, 125 years old, you know, but it's important that we protect it now because it can be replaced, and it's really special. It's what makes these communities and places unique and special. Like these luxury apartments, that Lego one you're saying, they'll never be historic. They'll be torn down in 30 or 40 years and replaced. Like they won't be 100 years from now because they were never unique to start with. You know, they were never works of great architectural art.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, oh, you know, prop them right up.
But back to your question about what we plan to do. So I think there's a really cool opportunity right now. It's like restoring and protecting the theater is kind of the foundation, but then I have an architect we're working with, and we're working with people on a national level. There's the League of Historic American Theaters, which are a national group. We've reached out to our sister Pantages Theater in Tacoma, been talking with them. But I think having this cool foundation where it's like, all right, we have this amazing theater, we can restore it, and then use that as a way to look into the future of film and cinema. And going back to kind of what we were chatting about earlier with streaming and Netflix and these things, I think there's a huge misconception right now. And whenever there's like a misconception, there's like an opportunity there for something new. So a lot of people look at us younger folks, and they're like, oh, we hate the theaters. You know, we hate going to the theaters. We love Netflix and streaming, and we'll never go to the theaters. I think that's not true. I think the younger people are absolutely adore theaters and going out and all this stuff. But I think what we need to talk about is the experience. If you can stay at home and have an experience on Netflix and streaming, and then the theater experience is worse than that, it's like, of course, no one's going to leave their house to go to a worse experience in these megaplexes that are just boxes with, you know, popcorn, and it hasn't been innovative enough.
I will say I hate a loud, obnoxious crowd during something I'm trying to pay attention to, and that has ruined movie going for me from time to time.
Yeah, and
sometimes it's enhanced it, like Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah.
Like that should be a wild, ridiculous crowd.
Yeah, or like the Avengers movie, people are always posting those clips and stuff, and I think those are good times. But I think it just needs to be the theaters need to have a chance to have a better customer service and experience, right? So what's really cool about this is like the Pantages, it's a theater that Netflix can never replace. You know, you literally can't have this theater inside someone's house. So already you're starting at a place above the streaming experience, like going out to a theater that's 100 years old, that's ornate, that was beautiful. I hear all these stories from people running the social media stuff for Save the Theater, and from older generations, they tell me about the theater was so beautiful they would get distracted from the movie, which to me is like just such a foreign concept. Growing up with megaplexes, you're like, I've never been distracted from a movie from the theater, you know. So having just incredible, like going to see a movie in a work of art itself where the theater is special, I think that's already a cool place. But then we're looking at how to enhance that, you know. How can we innovate on the movie theater going experience in general? You know, whether that's like having QR codes on the seats. So like, you know, you just sit down, you scan that, you order your food, and it's brought out to you. There's no concession lines. You know, we look at like awesome things the Alamo Drafthouse is doing, you know, with like having people like not be able to use their phones in the theaters or whatever, like different stuff like that, changing the seats. A lot of people just want seat warmers in their seats. So that could be something basic like that, or then going beyond that of like new technology of there's places that are using projectors to like project 3D environments around the theater and kind of have more immersive experience, and looking into future technology of how the theater experience will keep growing and changing with time and evolving to be something better. That's something you can't do at your house. But I think that also goes into some of this other programming we plan to do at the theater. I talk about using it for Sundance, one of the world's biggest film festivals, but also but having like directors come and Q&A, or having the symphony come play for a movie there. Experiences and programming and events that you can't do it on streaming. You can't get a whole symphony in your living room the same way. So
well, we are running out of time, so two things I did want to just touch on real quick before we wrap it up. First of all, I think you had told me about an idea of having some kind of film school elements or anything attached to it.
Yeah.
That was intriguing to me.
If people like look behind me, this is actually the Pantages here. We had someone do an architectural rendering. That's what this photo is. And it can be found, on the website and stuff, and our pages. But the idea was to restore the theater. We actually want to build additional theaters above and have the art house theaters come over with us and be partners with us. So people could go see the art house movies up above. There'd be normal movies. And then whatever the big event in the Pantages for that day, that's what would be, whether it was Sundance, whether it was Comic-Con, or, a big director coming in. And then above those theaters, we want to build a space for film education. And that's kind of what I get really excited about as a film nerd myself, because I was before I got too involved with the theater a few years ago, I was planning to go finish a PhD at the U of U here in film. And I love helping and supporting other filmmakers and artists, whether it's someone wants to come learn about screenwriting or acting or directing, cinematography, special effects. We want this to be a place where people come watch movies, but then stay and get help to make their own. So we have ideas, to partner with universities and K through 12 schools. And I know this is something you're very passionate about as a teacher and educator for a long time in Seattle. And,
Sure.
I think, using this as a foundation for the future of film and cinema, it's really my belief that a lot of the next great filmmakers already live in Utah or will come here, and be a part of this with us. And we can use this as a way for them to get resources and support and help to tell their own stories, especially filmmakers that are, usually left out of the conversation, women, people of color, indigenous creators, Asian, Pacific Islander, and queer artists. I think they need the most support out of anyone. And we're really hoping this to rebuild this as a place for them, and so people can get support and to make their own movies and tell their own stories. And I think that's what it's really all for at the end of the day, is how can we use our spaces and our resources to push the boundaries further and invest in art and culture and storytelling.
Yeah, that sounds great to me, man. So we're definitely out of time. If you want to just let anybody know where they can support you, a website, social media, whatever.
Yeah, so our website is savetheutahpantages.org. We're on social media, Facebook and Instagram mostly. I'm terrible at the Twitter. I need to do more twittering, but it's
that's a cesspool.
Save the Utah Pantages is our Instagram handle on Facebook. And we have a lot of good stuff coming. To me, there's no doubt in my mind that we'll save the theater and stop this till. We're already suing the city, and we get more momentum and support every day of this. And it's really something we can't afford to lose in my eyes. We're saving it for the community. We call it the People's Pantages. We have a cool event coming up in October where a member of the Pantages family is actually flying out from LA to come meet with us. So it's pretty cool, and we're excited about. So hopefully next time people come to Salt Lake, I'd love to have the theater open so people can come enjoy it, especially film buddies like us. So
sure,
lots of movies to watch there someday soon. So
definitely. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll have you on again. We'll definitely have episodes where Kellen can't make it, where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have Mike on. We're just gonna break down Scorsese movies. Or something.
Yeah, I really appreciate you inviting me on. Love to see how the podcast's been going. Excited at almost 50 episodes already. Fantastic. And then it's cool that you're doing video now too. So I love that. So
yeah, it adds something, don't you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm kind of biased with the film thing, but I think
Sure.
I think it gives the good people option if they want to listen to it or watch it and go from there. So
yeah. Well, it's been great. I'm gonna try to get more and more guests on, and we'll
thanks.
have you back. And
Yeah, looking
it's
forward
been
to the
real.
Halloween episodes coming up for you guys.
Yeah, I had
all
an
the
idea
scary
for
stuff.
that, but we'll see what happens.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, man.
All right.
Appreciate
Yeah.
you.
All right. Well, ta-ta. Thank you for listening to the Jacob Wayne Show. If you would like to contact us, please write us at fakoshka@gmail.com. That is FAKOSHKA@gmail.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Simply search The Jacob Wayne Show and it should pop right up. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Please write us. It helps add content to the show and makes the show even better for you, the listener. Thanks for tuning in.